overloaded with fleeing population. Pulling out, streets are all jammed. Noise and crowds like New Year's Eve in the city. Oh, wait a minute. Enemy now in sight above the Palisades. Five great machines. First one is crossing river. I can see it from here. Wading the Hudson like a man wading through a brook. A bulletin's handed me. Martian cylinders are falling all over the country. One outside Buffalo, one in Chicago, St. Louis. Seem to be timed in space. Now the first machine reaches the shore. He stands there watching, looking over the city. His steel, cowish head, even with the skyscrapers. He waits for the others. They rise like a line of new towers on the city's west side. Now they're lifting their metal hands. Oh, this is the end now. Smoke comes out, black smoke, drifting over the city. People in the streets see it now. They're running towards the East River, thousands of them, dropping like rats. Now the smoke's spreading faster. It's reached Times Square. People trying to run away from it, but it's no use. They're falling like flies. Now the smoke's crossing 6th Avenue, 5th Avenue. 100 yards away. It's 50 feet.
2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. New York! Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone on the air? Isn't there anyone? 2X2L.
You are listening to a CBS presentation of Orson Welles at the Mercury Theater on the air, an original dramatization of A War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. This performance will continue after a brief intermission. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System. As I set down these notes on paper, I'm obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I've been hiding in this empty house near Glover's Mill, a small island, daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures in the world now seems another part of another life, a life that has no continuity with the present. Further existence on the lonely derelict pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature of Richard Pearson. I look down at my blackened hands, my torn shoes, my tattered clothes. I try to connect them with a professor who lives at Princeton. And one night of October 30th, glimpsed through his telescope an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, students, my books, my observatory, my world. Where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Richard Pearson? What day is it? Do days exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks? In writing down my daily life, I tell myself I shall preserve human history between the dark colors, this little book. I was meant to record the movements of the stars. But to write, I must live. And to live, I must eat. I find moldy bread in the kitchen, and an orange not too spoiled to swallow. I keep watching the window. Behind the time I catch sight of the Martian above the black smoke. The smoke still holds the house in its black coil. But at length there is a hissing sound, and suddenly I see a Martian mounted on his machine, spraying the air with a jet of steam as if to dissipate the smoke. I watch in the corner as his huge metal legs brush against the house. Exhausted by terror, I fall asleep. It's morning. Morning. Sun streams in the window. The black cloud of gas has lifted. The scorched meadows of the north look as though a black snowstorm has passed over them. I venture from the house. I make my way to the road. No traffic. Here and there a red car and baggage will return, a blackened skeleton. I push on north. For some reason, I feel safer in traveling, trailing these monsters and running away from them. And I keep a careful watch. I have seen the Martians feed. Should one of their machines appear over the top of trees, I'm ready to fling myself flat on the earth. I come to a chestnut tree. October chestnuts are ripe. I fill my pockets. I must days I wander in a vague northerly direction through a desolate world. Finally, I notice a living creature, a small red squirrel in a beech tree. I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe that at that moment, the animal and I share the same emotion, the joy of finding another living being. I push on north. I find dead cows in a brackish field. Beyond the charred ruins of a dairy, the silo remains standing guard over the wasteland like a lighthouse deserted by the sea. Astride the silo perches a weathercock. The arrow points north. Next day, I came to a city vaguely familiar in its contours, yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and level off, as if a giant hand sliced off its highest tower with a capricious sweep of his hand. I reached the outskirts. I found Newark, undemolished, but humbled by some whim of the advancing Martians. Presently, with an odd feeling of being watched, I caught sight of something crouching in the doorway. I made a step towards it, and it rose up. It became a man, armed with a large knife.
Oh, where'd you come from?
I came from many places, a long time ago, from Princeton.
Princeton, huh? Just near Grover's Mill.
Yes.
Grover's Mill. There's no food there. This is my country. All this end of town, down to the river. There's only food for one. Where you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
What's that? You hear something just then?
A bird. A live bird.
You get to know the birds of shadows these days. Say, we're in the open here. Let's crawl into this doorway and talk.
Have you seen any Martians?
Yeah. They've gone over to New York. Night the sky's alive with their lights, just as if people were still living in it. By daylight, you can't see them. 5 days ago, a couple of them carried something big across the flats from the airport. I believe they're luring out a fly.
Fly.
Yeah, fly.
It's all over with you, Daddy. Stranger, there's still you and I. Two of us left.
They got themselves inside. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars, they're probably falling somewhere every night. They've only lost one machine. There isn't anything to do. We've lost. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? You're in a uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it? I was in the militia, National Guard. That's good. Wasn't any war, any more than there's war between men and ants.
And we're eating evil ants. Found that out. What will they do with us?
I thought it out loud. Right now we're caught as we're wanted. The Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd in the... Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd on the run, but they won't keep doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic, like keeping the best and storing us in cages and things. They haven't begun on us yet. Not begun. All that's happened so far is because we don't have any sense enough to keep quiet. Bother them with guns and such stuff and losing our heads and rushing off in crowds. Now instead of our rushing around blind, we've got to fix ourselves up according to the way things are now. Cities, nations, civilization, progress, done.
But if that's so, what is there to live for?
Well, won't be any more concerts for 1,000,000 years or so.
What?
No nice little dinners at restaurants. If it's amusements you're after, I guess the game's up.
What is there left?
Life. That's what I want to live. Yeah, so do you. We're not going to be exterminated, and I don't mean to be caught either, and tamed and flattened or bred like an ox. No, sir. What are you going to do? I'm going on. Right under their feet. We men as men are finished. I don't know enough. We got to learn plenty before we got a chance, and we got to live and keep free while we learn. See, I've thought it out loud. See, tell me the rest. Well, it isn't all of us that we're made for wild beasts, and that's what it's going to be. That's why I watched you. All these little office workers that used to live in these houses, they'd be no good. They haven't any stuff to them. They just used to run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them running wild to catch their commuter train in the morning in fear they'd get canned if they didn't. Running back at night afraid there won't be a time for dinner. Lives insured and invested in case of accidents. And on Sundays worried about the hereafter. The Martians will be a godsend for those guys. Nice roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. After a week or so, chasing about the fields on empty stomachs, they'll come and be glad to be caught. Man, you thought it all out, haven't you? You bet I have. And that isn't all. These Martians will make pets as some of them, training them to do tricks. Who knows? Get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. So maybe they'll train to hunt us. That's impossible. No human being. Oh, yes, they will. There's some men who will do it gladly. Well, whoever comes after me, why, in the meantime, you and I, others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth? I got it all figured out. We'll live underground. I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York, miles and miles of them. The main ones are big enough for anybody. Then there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, railway tunnels, subways. You get to see, eh? And we'll get a bunch of strong men together. Don't be ones. Rubbish. Out. And you met me to go? Well, I gave you a chance, didn't I? Well, we won't quarrel about that. Go on. And we've got to make safe places for all of us to stay, see, and get all the books we can, science books. That's where men like you come in, see. We'll raid the museums, we'll even spy on the Martians. It may not be so much we have to learn before. Just imagine this, 4 or 5 of their own fighting machines suddenly start off. Heat rays, right, left, and not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, but men who have learned the way how. It may even be in our time. Gee, imagine having one of them lovely things with its heat ray wide and free. We turn it on. We turn it on Martians. We turn it on men. We bring everybody down to their knees. That's your plan. You and me and a few more of us. We own the world. I see. Say, what's the matter? Where are you going? Not to your world. Goodbye, stranger. After parting with the artilleryman, I came at last to the hollow tunnel. I entered that silent tube, anxious to know the fate of the great city on the other side of the Hudson. Cautiously, I came out of the tunnel and made my way up to Canal Street. I reached 14th Street, and there again were black powder in several bodies, and an evil, ominous smell from the gratings of the cellars of some of the houses. I wandered up through the 30s and 40s, and stood alone on Times Square. I caught sight of a lean dog running down 7th Avenue with a piece of dark brown meat in its jaws, and a pack of starving mongrels at its heels. He made a wide circle around me, as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor. I walked up Broadway in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shop windows displaying their mute wares and empty sidewalks. Past the Capitol Theater, silent, dark. Past a shooting gallery where a row of empty guns faced an arrested line of wooden ducks. Near Columbus Circle, I noticed models of 1939 motor cars in the showrooms facing empty streets. Over the top of the General Motors building, I watched a flock of black birds circling in the sky. I hurried on.